Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. If you ever have a suggestion for a short video for TikTok or for YouTube, go to the website, psychologyseattle.com, click on the contact button, email me there with the timestamp and everything, and I'll try to include it as a TikTok. Incidentally, I haven't been making them lately because I've been kind of overworked, and so I need to get around to that, which I need to write down. But anyway, let's watch the show.
After that day, I said, I'm not going to make anyone bully me or take advantage of me ever again in my life.
It's just sad because the ex-wife wasn't, I don't think, particularly bullying. And for her, though, she's like, I'm done with this. And if Bilal was there for her, I think she wouldn't have this strict boundary with the ex-wife. Because if she has this, if Shaeeda comes in swinging, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, I think it really will result in a rift in this family. But if Bilal was there supporting her and saying, you're totally right, my ex-wife should never have said those things, and I totally support you, and I'll talk with her, I think that Shaeeda would come in with a much different attitude. But I think for her, she's just like, I'm done. If no one's going to support me, then the gloves are going to come off.
Oh, here.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Assalamualaikum. How are you? I'm good. That's good. So,
What's going on?
nothing much.
I wonder if they put them in a storage closet or something, because there's all sorts of stuff in the back.
The last meeting that I had with Bilal, he told me that I overstepped the friendship bound with Shaeeda. I was just trying to look out for his well-being and his best interests as well as the kids.
Okay, well, good. I think that Bilal seemingly supported his wife and said, hey, you went a little far, so I take back what I said. It sounds like Bilal did support her to some extent.
So we had an engagement, was when you came to my home. I felt disrespected.
Okay, what did I say to make you hurt and upset?
I think it's not what you say, but how you said it. You were very much aggressive. You had a lot of reach.
Yeah, if I were there, I would encourage Shaeeda to be a little bit more specific, to just, and this is a tip for you out there, that when you have a grievance, when someone has hurt your feelings, which is what Shaeeda is communicating, to stay away from those kinds of statements. It's just like, well, it's not anything you said, you just had a vibe of aggression. Now, you could absolutely say, it was your tone of voice. It made me feel like you meant this. You want to say those very tentatively, though. This is a constant universal thing, by the way. This isn't just applying to some of you. This is applying to all of you, that when you are in a conflict with someone in your life, particularly a spouse, this issue of tone and interpretations from that tone is a reason for a lot of conflict. If in some couples, it's the only reason for the conflict. That Shaeeda hears a tone from Shaeeda, which is totally reasonable. A tone of accusation, of judgment, of rejection, of disrespect. And so she could absolutely say that. She could say, you had a tone that made me feel like you were thinking these things about me. But I don't know if that's how you were feeling, because you didn't really say that directly, but it seemed like you were saying that. So I don't know if I'm just making that up or what. Now, it's likely that it's reasonable that she would have that reaction, but it's key to be tentative about that, because Shaeeda, in her heart, might not have any aggression or rage as she's being accused of right now. And in her mind, she was protective of her kids, who are connected to Bilal, which are now connected to Shaeeda. So in her mind, she's like, I'm just saying facts. I said there's a chance that you are here as a gold digger. I didn't say you were a gold digger. I said it's possible. And I thought it was important that you sign the prenup, because I think if you truly love him and da-da-da, there's a logic to it. But she did have a tone, or at the very least, she didn't include other statements of like, look, I don't want to accuse you of anything. There's no reason for anyone to think that you're shady or anything, but it's just, it would make everyone feel a lot better. It'd make me feel better if you signed the prenup because of the following reasons. You don't have to, of course, and I could see how that would be, Shaeeda could have said something like that. She could have included those kinds of statements. She did not, seemingly, from the edit. And so, because right now, the way that Shaeeda is coming from a legit place, I think a logical place, a justifiable place. But then by saying, well, it was nothing you said, you were aggressive and rageful, now Shaeeda is going to say, no, I wasn't. You're distorting. This is your problem. And now we're in this debate about what she was feeling, instead of for Shaeeda to say, I don't know what was going on with you, but here's how it came across to me. I could be distorting things, and can we talk about that?
Shaeeda,
Shaeeda,
did I yell at you?
I don't know if you don't see yourself when you're angry, but you was not so peaceful. You came with the boxing gloves on.
I'm not about to sit here and stand for that, because that's not what I did.
That is the tone I heard. You see how it's now coming out of you, that aggression, that's...
Yeah, I can't see this going well. I don't think Shaeeda is wrong in saying, what? Rageful? That was, because that's not how it seems in the edit, I would not characterize it as rageful. Aggressive, you could maybe make an argument for that. That wouldn't be the word I would say. I don't know if I'd use a adjective. I think I would describe it the way I described it earlier, given more words to the situation rather than just these labels that could be misinterpreted. So Shaeeda has every reason to be like, what? I'm being accused of being rageful? No, I wasn't. I'm not going to sit here and be accused of that. So yeah, this isn't going well. Now, of course, Bilal, being in the middle of this triangle, could help. They almost never do on this show, but he could help and say, well, let me help out here a little bit. I mean, here's what I would do if I were Bilal. I'd be like, so I think what Shaeeda is saying is that when you were saying this and that it felt hurtful to her because it felt like you were accusing her of something. You weren't accusing her of anything, right? She didn't accuse you of anything. No, okay. But it sounded like you were doing that, and you did have an intensity. And, Shaeeda, you can have an intense voice. I don't think you're rageful or aggressive, but I think it can come across as a little rigid or something. Not terrible. You're fine to be that. Bilal could help because he knows both women and can help interpret things. Let's see what he does.
The person who I witnessed.
Shaeeda wants to sit here and be a victim. She wants to get away with her bad behavior as usual, and I'm not going to put it to rest. Acknowledge that you hurt my feelings, apologize, and move on. You're not going to play me out to be a liar when I'm not lying.
Yeah, this is unfortunate because I don't know if this is accurate, but it doesn't seem accurate based her perspective, Shaeeda's perspective, based on the edit anyway. She's using these common phrases that people will use when, in my experience, usually indicates they've crossed the Rubicon, and it's going to be really hard for them to come back from the contempt and resentment they have towards someone. That for Shaeeda, she says that Shaeeda wants to play the victim and is calling her a liar, when Shaeeda kind of set that up, because I don't think Shaeeda is lying when she's saying, I was not rageful and I did not come across as rageful, which is what Shaeeda is accusing her of. So this is unfortunate that it went down this way. Now, Shaeeda could read between the lines and say, okay, well, I don't agree with the rage thing or the aggression thing, but if I was to guess, then maybe both people can make things better. And this is what I'm always doing with couples, is we will review conflicts that they've been in recently. And I will start with the Shaeeda part and say, well, the beginning of the problem was when you use the word rage, seemingly. So maybe if you used a different word there or were more tentative about it, then maybe that wouldn't have triggered the other person. So it kind of began with you, Shaeeda. We could go back and say it began with Shaeeda with the previous conversation, but if we just stuck to this moment. But then once that's fully explored and the client is on board for the most part, I will shift to the Shaeeda person and I'll say, and you could have, it's not necessarily your responsibility, but you could have read between the lines and said, oh, even though I'm being accused of being rageful, which wasn't true, instead of really focusing on that and attacking that, I'll just kind of judo that and let that go past me and say, okay, what I'm hearing is that you thought I was being rageful. I don't remember that. Maybe I was, but it sounds like I was coming across as harsh. There's a way of being functional about it, because a lot of times the Shaheedas in the relationship will just laser focus on this thing that's obviously not true, like this rage accusation, and will burn the whole house down because of that one thing. Because presumably Shaeeda wants a good relationship with Shaeeda, wants to have a working relationship moving forward. I think she does. So it would meet the broader goal of everything for Shaeeda, for Bilal, for the kids, if you let that one go by you a little bit and try to find a workable place to land on for the two of you. And again, you could argue Shaeeda, it's not her responsibility, but sometimes you have to rise above it and say, well, even though I'm being kind of crapped on in this moment, for the greater good, I'm going to go down this other road.
I think as people, sometimes we may do things, we may say things that another person may take it another different way.
I mean, it's like...
Okay, so at first I'm like, oh, Bilal, you and your lectures. But let's see what he says here. He says, people take it a different way. So he's saying to Shaeeda, I think maybe you might have taken it in a different way. Who knows what the full conversation was like, because I think they truncated it down a little bit. But it's not a bad message, because that's essentially what I'm saying to Shaeeda. It all depends on if Shaeeda receives that well. If she's like, okay, maybe you're right. But if she receives it as, once again, I'm being ganged up on, then I don't think that's going to help. But let's see how she manages it.
That another person may take it another different way.
I mean, it's like you came ranting and raving. I was just like standing in the kitchen, like, I don't want her coming back. Like, I was like ready to ban you from my home. It's like, she cannot come back here and behave.
Yeah, she's still in that zone of ranting and raving and saying, I'm going to ban you from my home. I mean, we didn't see the whole conversation, but okay, if I was to take a guess, I would say that it's not a strong guess, but she has a lot of built up anger and hurt and justification to express frustration. And the roadblocks that she gets with Bilal, it needs to go somewhere. So it's all going on to Shaeeda, that she is saying, I'm not gonna back down, but it exaggerates it because there's all this other pain that's coming out in this moment. It's not a strong guess, but it would explain why I think she's, in my estimation, exaggerating and or distorting what had happened. We didn't see the whole thing, but using words like aggressive, rageful, ranting, and raving, it didn't look that way to me.
Like that.
Ban me from
My home.
from your home?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's to tell you how hurt and upset I was.
Okay, then she ends well with, that's how hurt and upset I was. That's an offering. She could have left out the ranting and raving part, and I was going to ban you. But maybe Shaeeda can say, okay, well, I'll let that one go by. Hopefully that'll happen.
Is no longer a conversation. It's just an argument. Honestly, I didn't say any much because I'm trying to stay neutral. I want to get along with my ex-wife. We have children, and we want to make sure all that is peaceful. But also, I want to support my wife, this person I sleep in the bed with every night. You guys are...
I mean, that's a weird way to put it, but whatever. So, yeah, I see his place, but it's not a matter of taking sides. And as a family couple therapist myself, we have this notion that somehow if you are the Bilal in the room, you have to take sides. And you don't have to take sides. You can see both people for the goodness and the reasonableness that they're trying to express and maybe not succeeding. But I see goodness, and I'm taking both their sides. I'm taking both Shaeeda's side and Shaeeda's side. I'm not one person. One person isn't winning versus losing, kind of a thing, right?
You know, grown adults, you know, and it shouldn't be any bad blood between either one of y'all.
Like, I don't want it to be like bad blood between us. I was looking to get to know you, have a good relationship with you. I was actually hoping for us to like be cordial with each other. Like, I wanted us to be compatible for the sake of the kids. But I just want you to acknowledge the fact that when you came inside my home, you came with rage, you were not cordial, you were not polite. That's all I want you to like acknowledge.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard for Shaeeda to agree with that. I don't know why Shaeeda just doesn't say, okay, let's get away from the rage and the ranting and the raving and the aggression. I was hurt when you said that you wanted me to sign the prenup because you were worried that I was only here to take all of his stuff. That's what you said, because that is what she said. She could say that, but she hasn't said that. She says, well, it wasn't anything that you said, but you were raging and aggressive and ranting and raving. Like, I could see Shaeeda being like, what?
That's not true. I'm not going to apologize for something that I didn't do.
Then why did you come here?
I came here to actually
not gonna have
clear
an
the air,
apology.
but I'm not apologizing for
I'm
you
done.
telling.
I'm literally done.
Yeah, wow, this is really unfortunate because they are going to be parenting the same kids. They are going to be a part of each other's lives, presumably for a long period of time. Usually people don't pull out of this nosedive easily. So it's unfortunate to watch the breakdown of a family right before our eyes when it just didn't have to go that way. If Shaeeda had someone to help her, or the threesome had someone to help them with this conversation. And as I always say, if you break your arm, you go to a physician. If you have a family conflict issue, you go to a family therapist. They can help.
Bilal, you better get her because you know this will get real left.
No, you better
real
get her.
quick.
You okay?
Real quick.
She thinks she's the only one who has
Real
emotions.
quick.
That one very nasty.
Real quick.
So, wow. So now Shaeeda is getting angry and standing up. So, just so unfortunate. It's just so unfortunate. So unfortunate.
No.
Southeast Dago will be up in here.
So what? I don't care.
And,
You
and,
can
and
touch
don't
me
say
as much
so.
as you
Don't say
can.
so what because you don't know
Listen,
me.
listen.
You're putting
You
something
could be
on
a
me
big
that did not
bully.
happen.
Astaghfirullah,
I'm not trying to be a
A'udhu
bully to you.
billahi minash shaitanir
I'm
rajeem.
not trying to be a bully to you.
A'udhu
But you're not
billahi.
gonna back me into a corner. You're a bully.
A'udhu billahi.
Yes, you are a bully. You are a bully, Shaeeda.
Yeah, interesting. So now she is being rageful and aggressive for, I think, the first time because she was being accused of that. And, you know, it's interesting. Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's going this way because it didn't have to.
You don't know me either, Shaeeda.
You better get her.
No.
Because I will reach across that table and bring
Then
you out.
I don't care. Go ahead. And that's the conduct you want to conduct yourself as a Muslim woman?
Yes,
What kind of example
because
are
you
you
don't know
setting
who
for
you're
your
talking to.
16-year-old daughter?
You
Listen,
don't know who
No
you're
listen.
talking
example,
to, Shaeeda.
Shaeeda. That is no example.
Yeah, I did not expect it to get this bad. I saw it being bad, but I didn't think it would come to essentially threats. So that's unfortunate. It seems like it's going to be hard to pull back from this one.
Go.
Yeah, you would hope that he would, and maybe they will after the cameras are gone, have a talk about it. It's okay if Bilal is like, I think you went a little far with that, honey. I mean, Shaeeda was wrong to essentially threaten you, kind of, but I think you might have went a little far with calling her rageful and aggressive and all those kinds of things. So, but, you know, I understand where you're coming from, and maybe I can have a talk with, you'd think he would try to comfort, even if he thought, man, Shaeeda really she went beyond the threshold there. You'd think he would just turn to her and say, wow, that was really rough. I'm sorry that happened. Just some kind of support, but he just stoically stands up. I think is a passive way of telling her that he does not approve of her in some way.
If Shaeeda would have come open-minded, with humility to apologize, I would have said, you know what? It happens. We could be friends.
Yeah, but you didn't give her a chance by insulting her right off the bat without any specific complaint or citing something that she said that bothered you. So, yeah, I guess if Shaeeda had sat down and go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And that was an option, but I don't know. It's just unfortunate. Might it still have gone down this way? Maybe, but I think if Shaeeda had communicated in the way I role-played, I think it's possible that, well, I don't know. At least it would have given a chance for Shaeeda to be like, oh, okay, well, I'm sorry for that. I didn't mean to come across that way.
I don't feel good right now because I know Bilal is like super upset. But I'm proud. I stand up for myself. And I was very diplomatic in my response.
I wouldn't call it diplomatic. I would call it not leaning over the table and threatening someone. So you were diplomatic in contrast to that, but I wouldn't call it diplomatic. Diplomatic would have been some of the ideas that I was throwing out there. We heard an interesting bit that she said. She says, I know that Bilal is very upset because when he shuts down and is stoic and quiet, it's hard to know what's really going on in his mind. And I would imagine that Shaeeda would understand more than anyone what that means. And she just identified that behavior as being very upset, which was my suspicion.
Leaned over at my table. I didn't do anything like that. She gave threats. If the relationship is going to be toxic, I don't need it. I don't need that in my life.
Yeah, and she said earlier that she is going to draw a line. And it just makes me wonder if she is displacing her anger from Bilal onto the ex-wife. She's like, I can blast the ex-wife because if she's out of my life, who cares? At least that's in her mind. Whereas something is causing her to not push back really at Bilal. She'll say things, but she'll only go so far, seemingly, at least what we've seen on camera. And I'm not saying that she's supposed to blast Bilal and yell at him and abuse him or something, but she tries, he does his thing, and then she deflates. But I think this time she's like, I'm not going to deflate anymore towards someone that she feels she can, vent towards. You just think there would be some support, something, a kind word from Bilal at this point. Just say, hey, that was real rough. She shouldn't have threatened you in that way. Even though in your head you're like, well, you kind of triggered her there. But, some compassion, maybe, we'll see.
Wow, the city looks so nice.
Looks like silent treatment, passive aggression. He's angry at her and is giving her a hidden message of hostility through quietness. I don't know that, but people will do this. It's what people will resort to when they feel they can't be vulnerable and upfront. They will attempt to communicate their request and their hurt feelings through aggressive silence. I don't know if that's what's happening, but given the pattern we've seen with him and his personality and their relationship, I wouldn't be surprised.
I am like so angry right now. Things happen, but to even happen in public makes it more embarrassing.
That was another suspicion that I had, that he's like, okay, let's not have more drama in front of the cameras. I'm going to be quiet because if we engage, we'll get in a fight. So let's get home, cameras go home, and then we'll have a talk. He also did confirm that he's so angry right now. And there would be nothing wrong with him saying, I don't want to do this in front of the cameras. Maybe you shouldn't be on a reality TV show. So it's an ironic juxtaposition there of, I don't want to do it in public. Well, is he saying in public because they were at a cafe? It didn't seem like there were very many customers around in the garbage bunker that that they were in of that coffee shop. So, and it looks like they were upstairs, like the main floor was where anyway, point is that, does he mean public because they were in a cafe where there were a couple of customers, or is he saying public because of the reality TV show?
If I start talking right now, I may say something I may regret.
Right, that's another reason that I proposed earlier. I think that people will be quiet in the situation because they legitimately worry that they're going to escalate. But that doesn't mean you say nothing. It means you just be very careful about what you say. And you can just try to muster something supportive, because the fight was not with him. Shaeeda didn't attack him, so he could say something nice, hold her hand or something. All right, well, thank you for liking this video or any of the videos that I make. I do look at that statistic every once in a while to see if I'm on the right track. So if you think I'm on the right track, thumbs up is that sort of indication. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.